2 ways to push past training plateaus to make sure that you don't stop your progress. All right, guys, before we get into it, grab that free jump training. First link in the description. Absolutely free, very worth it, condensed into like a 20-minute training for you. All right, so there are 2 different ways to push past training plateaus. And the first way is going to be to switch up the exercises. They might be becoming stale, or at least the sets, the reps, the scheme of the whole program and those training variables. If you're doing barbell deadlifts for 6 months to a year out and you're starting to experience diminishing returns, which means that we're not progressing at that pace that we were, we might need to take a deload week or a couple deload weeks to kind of resensitize our body to that stimulus. Or we should make a tweak in that form. So, okay, maybe instead of traditional barbell deadlifts, we will do barbell RDLs where we get less knee bend and more hinge into it. So you're still doing a variation of deadlift. I mean, deadlifts are crucial to just foundational leg strength, and a version of deadlift should always be done. It's not like you take deadlifts out, but we need to find ways to spice it up a little bit and wake the muscle up. This is what they talk about with muscle confusion. Muscle confusion isn't, oh, every week we switch up the exercise, or every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks, right? I'm talking long periods of time, 6 months, a year after doing deadlifts. Then that's when we need to kind of resensitize that muscle, and that's where muscle confusion comes from. So that's the correct way muscle confusion should be thought of. So switching up the exercises, switching up the rep scheme. So if you've just been doing a 5x5 that whole time, then try to go a little bit lower in the rep range, because we're talking about increasing vertical jump here. So we definitely want to stay in those lower rep ranges. So maybe instead of a 5x5, try a 5x3. That way you can go heavier, still stay in that rep range that is going to translate well to increasing your vertical jump. And that way that 5x3 reps is going to be a different stimulus. We're going to be able to pack the hamstrings and the lower back with more weight, and that way we can create different adaptations to spice up our training and wake the muscles up and be more responsive. And then we could always go back to that 5x5 if your muscles respond well to that 5x5, and then over time it kind of starts to decrease the effectiveness and potency. We could always go back to it after we've refreshed with a cycle of a 4x3 or whatnot. And that's why proper programming is so important, to make sure that we don't hit plateaus. So if you guys are interested in the World Record Jump Academy, joining hundreds of my athletes, you guys can click that second link in the description, or go to againstathletics.com/world record jump. All right, so that's number 1 way that we can push past plateaus in our training. Number 2 is going to be focused on ego lifting. And what is ego lifting? It means that we are just chasing numbers for the sake of chasing numbers because we see the gym bro next to us, incorrectly curling or squatting weight, but he's squatting with his lower back and rounding the back on his deadlifts and whatnot, his or her. And we don't want to chase numbers for the sake of chasing numbers. Yes, we want to progressively overload each week, but we want to progressively overload the muscles in which we're trying to target. So let's take a squat, for instance. We're trying to progressively overload the quads and the glutes. And yes, the lower back is involved in stabilization, but we don't want that lower back doing that weight coming up on it. So if we're only able to increase progressively overload squats by using improper form, then that's not something that we want to do. We need to cut back that weight and make sure that we're targeting the muscles. Most times when you drop down the weight, you will actually feel it more in the muscles, because that should tell you you were doing too much weight before and other muscles were compensating for it. So if you're decreasing the weight and you're feeling it more, then it means, okay, I need that ego check and stop ego lifting, and that way we can actually target the muscles better. So put the ego aside. I have to do this to myself too. Like every month, every 2-3 months, I have to say, okay, let me look through it and let me kind of go through where I think I'm ego lifting a little bit and kind of drop the numbers down. And then that first workout after, I'm doing like lateral delt raises, and I'm like, wow, like I feel a lot more with the 15s rather than the 20s. Then so be it. It doesn't matter if we're lifting 20s, because it just matters if we're seeing the result that we want. And for you guys, that is increasing your vertical jump. So making sure that we're not ego lifting is going to be the second reason we will be able to push past training plateaus. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. grab that free jump training in the first link in the description, or go to againsoddsathletics.com/free training. I'm Chris Spell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.